this episode was actually recorded right after our previous episode with Jake Gray. And it's actually a super cool connection because my guest today, his name is Billy. He actually was referred to us by Jake. So interesting little Heroic Hearts Project connections going on there. Plus, I was wearing the HHP shirt when I filmed this episode. So this is a really cool one for me because this is, I think, the first time that I've ever interviewed a current client who's in the middle of going through our program. And basically, my goal here was for this to be a part one kind of episode to walk us up from Billy's early life up until around the time he joined us. And actually, we stopped a bit shy of that because there was so much good ground to cover. I probably made Billy a little bit uncomfortable, as I tend to do on this podcast by lingering in some of the dark stuff for quite a while. I feel like you could make a freaking movie out of Billy's life between having drug addict parents to joining the Navy to being in multiple IED blasts to his PTSD when he got out, the whole saga with his ex-wife where I feel like we really only scratched the surface of that, but I didn't want to just completely rake him over the coals on a public episode, especially while he's in the middle of our program working through this exact stuff. And we kind of left off right around when things turned around when he started to get sober after dealing with his own drug and alcohol addiction issues. So on part two, we'll hear all about his macrodose with psilocybin, all about that ceremony, and we will obviously get into his experiences working with us in our Mindful Microdosing Program. But again, the goal here is kind of lay a foundation, share some of the struggles, hear about his backstory, and as always, ideally, to spread a little bit of hope. So maybe somebody out there listening can identify a little bit with some of his story. And honestly, right now, Billy's fucking crushing it in life, and he's in a fantastic place. So it's a very inspiring story. I'm super, super grateful to call him a friend, grateful for him coming on here and being so open and honest and vulnerable about everything. And I'm really looking forward to bringing you guys a part two on the other side of finishing our 6-month program, and we can see how much progress he's made. All right, so let's get into it. Enjoy this episode. Catch you on the other side. JK, one other quick little note that I'm adding in here, because we actually recorded these episodes weeks and weeks ago, and I wasn't sure which order we would be releasing these in. So if you have listened to our episode with Whiz Buckley, you would be interested to know that Billy here has actually attended one of Whiz's retreats. In that episode with Whiz, I kind of allude to like, hey, we have one of our clients who went and worked with you guys. So yeah, Billy went on a retreat with No Fallen Heroes. He was sponsored to go to this psilocybin retreat, which we don't really get into here. We're saving that for part two of this episode, but neat little connection. And I wanted to throw that in there because that first part of the intro you just listened to, I recorded like weeks ago before that episode with Whiz was put out. So without actually any further ado, let's get into it. Anyway, man, let's talk about you. So I I've only known you in the context of this healing path. Like, you are, full transparency, you are inside of our microdosing program right now. You're one of our clients. And so obviously we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about kind of what led up to that. But if you're cool with it, I would actually like to kind of rewind the tape a little bit and figure out kind of how you got set down the path that you went down. Kind of a little bit of childhood stuff, hear about the upbringing, hear about what led to joining the military, what led to the drug abuse things that ensued. So is that cool if we start there?
Absolutely.
All right, man. So you're from Southern California?
Yes.
Right?
Born in I'm sorry?
No. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Born in like San Bernardino.
Okay, so I am from New Jersey, and I know fuck all about California.
Yeah.
Where's that relative to like Los Angeles?
2 hours east.
Okay, so like not right there. I know shit's getting crazy in LA right now. There's a resurgence of rooftop Koreans.
Yeah, you've seen
right
that.
Now,
Yeah.
Which is, nature is healing, dude. They're Koreans are returning to the rooftops.
They're back, bro.
I might edit that out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so dude, I might be hallucinating here, but you told me that when you were growing up, your parents were into drugs as well, right? And like that was kind of part of growing up, was like them getting clean and then relapsing. Am I making that up, or that's something we talked about?
That's me,
right?
buddy. That's me. Yeah.
Okay. What did you make of that when you were a kid? You know, were they like drug addicts, or were they just kind of like free love hippies who like used drugs sometimes for funsies? Like, what was the vibe when you were a kid?
the funsies part would have been cool, I guess. Like as a kid, bro, like from like San Bernardino, right? And it's not like a nice place, really, like especially in the city. It's like one of the biggest counties in the
Mm.
country, but it was like notorious for like at one point in time that like Inland Empire, you got like L.A., Orange County, then the IE. We were like the meth, like the capital of the world, right? And that's not a good
Nice,
like fun
congrats.
fact to have, but like
No.
when I grew up, man, there was like I had like my siblings, which helped a lot. But I remember like I grew up like we lived in like a trailer at one point, a bus at like 1.2, and my older brother wasn't in the home with us. He always lived with like my grandma, But like as a kid, you're just like, let's go to grandma's and see our brother. I didn't really like put. I was like just way too young, But what
Yeah.
I had found out was like my parents' drug abuse was so bad. It was like booze and meth and weed, but it was so bad that my older brother had to be like taken out of the home. And like I guess my parents kind of got their stuff together by the time like my older sister, myself, and like my kid brother, we came to the equation. But yeah, man, when I was a kid, I kind of remember we moved a lot around. Like we moved like Rialto, Fontana, San Bernardino, Ontario, all these places that were like kind of like just like from apartment to apartment or whatever. But not good places to live. Oftentimes the only like white people in like the like community and stuff, and then it's like just drugs. And uh yeah, I remember like we moved a lot, and like my parents sometimes would have all these like people like come over, and it was like really like a fun time for like Friday and Saturday, hey, like here's a beer, or these are my friends, or all this stuff. And then come like Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, they were just in their room sleeping for a few days. But I think as a
Hmm.
kid, you're not, I was too young to like piece everything together at that time.
Yeah, I mean that as a kid, like that's all that you know. That's normal. Like you said, like, hey, let's go to grandma's and see my brother. Like
Yeah.
me and Cordy joke about that all the time. Like, what are we making Sita think is normal? That she's gonna go to a friend's house when she's 7 and say something, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" like, like I take off my shirt to sit down to eat dinner most of the time, and like I'll take her shirt off too because she's a toddler. So like, is she gonna go to somebody's house and like sit down for a meal and just take her shirt off? Because that's like all that you know is normal. But so for you, growing up in that environment, dude, like, did you have any sense of like, oh, this is not good that mom and dad are like smoking meth? Or again, was that just like, mom and dad are real sleepy today, I guess? Like, what was your understanding of that as a kid?
Dude, I think when it happened when I was younger, I wasn't aware really of like what was going on. Because if like that's all you know, then like that's all you know. And like your
Right.
parents are like your gods when you're young, like you depend on them for everything. And I do remember kind of being like aware of like it was like I don't know, man. It's like when I like reflect back on it, and then I only have like my like point of view, of course, but at the time I didn't know it was too like I guess in the beginning it was like so chaotic and shit. That's really all I knew. But when I got a little bit older and could like process it a little bit, you're like, oh fuck, this isn't normal. Like you're not supposed to be in like two or three schools in one year, and dad's not supposed to hit mom. Uh, this like whatever they're doing in their room. When you get a little older, you can kind of like sense like something is off. Like I might not have been aware of like they're doing drugs, but something's off. They get different, and then like my parents aren't like the other kids, like their parents. So
Yeah. Do you know how old you were when that realization kind of started of like, oh, this isn't right?
I would think maybe like around 10, maybe like 8 or 9, probably.
Okay, so pretty early
Yeah,
still.
yeah. And then it's like you're like, and then I've done some work with this guy. He kind of like grew up the way that I did when I had first got clean from like booze and drugs. He was like successful, and he was in the military as well. But he was like, uh, I used to have this such like an attachment to like my past, right? But he like put into words what was like hard for me to say, but I felt it when he did. He's like, dude, I grew up with dysfunction, and I used to take those secrets to school. And I was like, fuck. It was heavy, you know, like mom and dad do drugs. I'm different, not good enough, whatever, you know. But he was like, I used to take those secrets to school. And when he had said that, it was boom, it had clicked. Like, you know, the like initial wounds we experience or whatever, they're like they can be a part of us. And I used to let that shit be like an immense amount of like shame in my own life, you know. Mommy and daddy did drugs, I'm white trash, or I'm a tweaker, this or that. And that was a voice in my head for fucking years, man, years and years.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you to like break that down when you say like you took that shit to school because clearly that landed for you. So you mean like you would go to school and look at the other kids and then judge yourself in comparison to them, or put yourself down in relation to the other kids that you were seeing? Is that what you mean, or something
Yeah,
else?
no, that was like, yeah.
Yeah.
uh
So yeah, basically from the age of 8 onwards, like telling yourself that you're a piece of shit because your parents are
yeah,
tweakers.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. Uh, what was the dynamic like with your siblings? What was like the age spread like?
We're close, bro. It's funny. My dad used to joke we didn't have a TV because I think, hold on, I'm 36. Okay, so in August, 35, 36, 37, and 38.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
we're close.
Damn. Okay. um, so you were, or no, you said you had an older brother, older sister, and then you, and then younger bro. Okay. So, yeah, what other kinds of things do you feel like you internalized about that as a kid? Because we convince ourselves of the craziest shit when we're children. That's like completely
Oh,
irrational.
yeah, brother.
Like I fully convinced myself when I was a kid that me being perfect and getting perfect grades was the only thing keeping my parents' marriage together. Because like a bunch of my friends, their parents were divorced. My parents were yelling all the time at my brother. I was like, oh, if mom and dad are yelling, it means they must be close to getting a divorce. They always yell at my brother for grades and getting in trouble. Therefore, I must get perfect grades and never get in trouble, and then mom and dad won't get a divorce. And like that made a lot of sense to my little brain. So what kind of shit like that did you put on yourself?
Yeah. It's just if I fly under the radar, or pretty much if I don't get in trouble, if I'm like, if I listen to my parents, right? So, be a good kid, be a good boy. Uh, that's really all I have to do. You know what I mean? I guess just like act as if almost like I might have been aware that they were whatever, like effing off or whatever, but just be a good kid kind of shit. But a little bit more than that, a little bit too. I remember thinking it's like, dude, I'm different. You know what I mean? And I fucking like I can still have that thought today or whatever. And I guess, you know, as humans we're all like different, you know. But there was a negative attachment to it. You know what I mean? And like up until I think this last like few years, I've been able to like reform my relationship with that. Um, as like, dude, I just fucking like I think that's where like the shame wound first occurred. You know what I mean? Like I'm fucking, you know, like my parent. You know, you kind of grow up with like the chaos and the dysfunction. And I have this psychiatrist friend who like works in this space, and she said something along the lines of, you know, like trauma isn't necessarily what happens to you, it's what doesn't happen for you. And it's like, dude, like I guess of course, like I'm different, I'm not good enough, and like it makes sense why as a child you like why I like internalize that. So that's probably why I was like super fucking like hyper, super competitive. Always had to be like the class clown and like the center of attention. But I got good fucking grades and I was good at sports. So I guess like in a sense, if I performed, if I did, then my like so then I would be okay. So like my value, like as an individual, my whole identity was placed on the outside. You know, like I had no idea how to do this. Like, Billy, you're doing a good job, you're safe, you're loved, you know? So it's like if I make you laugh, if I get in a fight at school, if I do good at sports, if I get straight A's, which I did like a lot, you know, then I'm good. So all I had to do was perform and excel in this bubble, and then I was good as a human, I guess.
Yep. Were you getting told stuff in school that you were like gifted and like such a like a smart kid and all that kind of
Oh
stuff?
yeah, we had a gate where I'm from, like
Like
the gifted and
gifted and talented,
whatever
whatever.
that means.
Yeah. Well, I bring that up because it's almost like a meme with like millennials that like, hey, if you were in the gifted and talented program as a kid, like, how's your crippling anxiety and self-worth problems going nowadays? Because like, I think those programs are fueled by kids like you and me who put that message in our own heads
Big time, brother.
because it wasn't coming from
Dude,
anywhere else.
I
Yeah.
had like seen that a few months ago, right? And I like, I'm like scrolling on my phone, but I got stuck on that one for a second, and it was like some food for thought, like throughout the day. But then, then
Yeah,
enter
man.
that word potential, and I'll just beat the like,
Oh my
we're
God.
like apt to beating like the shit out of ourselves or being from not being where we think we should be, whatever that means too. You know what I mean? And then it's
Yep.
like, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
It fucked with me too because school always came like easily for me, and then everyone was telling me how smart I was and what a great job I was doing. And I was like, I haven't tried to do anything at all. I just like pay attention because I'm like blessed with a very good like almost photographic memory, so I never really had to try to learn shit. Just look at the board and like memorize the stuff and regurgitate it on an exam. So then if something came along that actually required me to apply myself and I wasn't good immediately, I was not interested. Cause like I never really learned how to like apply myself or try hard, which obviously led to other fucking problems later on. So are there things like that that you can almost trace like, hey, this experience as a kid is precisely why like I am this way in this regard?
you're the man just for like what you had just said, because that's like hard to put words on. But yeah, yeah, yeah. So I hear
Mm.
you on that one. Can you elaborate on the question like a little bit more? Sorry.
Well, no, I'm just wondering because we're kind of getting this picture of your upbringing, and then it's like, hey, we don't have to scratch our head too fucking hard to see why you went down some of the paths that you went down later on,
Right.
right? But are there any things like that where it's like a one-to-one direct correlation of like this specific thing as a kid or this specific experience, and then like here's exactly why I acted the way that I did as an adult or anything like that? There might not be. It might be kind of a more general thing.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think it's if I like fine combed it, I'm sure I can like like nitpick like a whole bunch of shit. But I think I just remember like actually it's like yeah, like without getting like too ahead of myself because like we have some time. It's just kind of yeah, just more general and stuff. I guess.
Yeah, we'll get
Okay,
there.
yeah.
So, all right, did you touch drugs or alcohol at all when you were a kid, or no?
I touched booze and some pot. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I think around like to like my older like my cousins, and then like I tried weed a little bit in high school, but it really wasn't my thing too much.
Yeah, okay. And so, what set you down the path of joining the military? And you were in the Marines, correct, or
I
no?
was
Did I
in
make that up?
the Navy, but I was like
Okay, I'm
right
sorry.
here. So I was no, you're good, brother. I was
The
yeah,
corpsman.
yeah. Yeah. So I was a
Yeah.
corpsman. So I was a greenside dock. So I was like technically in the Navy, but I wore the Marine Corps the uniform. I slept with them. I got their haircut, lived with them. So I was kind of like,
You slept with Marines. That's cool.
hey, what is it?
Sorry.
Don't ask, don't tell, big dog. But yeah,
All right, so what set you down that path? Like, why'd you join?
so okay, so when I was a kid, like I said, like grew up with dysfunction, but then my parents got clean, like clean, and I remember it was around like 10 or 11 or whatever, and like my folks got back together, and um, we like went from like an apartment. Like we were in a shelter at that point, and then an apartment, and then a home, and then dad got a good job, and mom started working, and me and my like siblings played sports. We're at the same school for longer than a semester and all that stuff, and then life got normal for like X amount of years, and then they effed off again. I think like when I was going into high school or whatever, and like drugs and booze entered the equation. And by then I was old enough to like see what was going on, not only just like because you can like feel it. So when I was younger, it was chaotic. I felt it. I didn't know what was going on. Then they got clean for a long period of time, and it entered like security and like peace, like enter the home. Dad stopped hitting mom. Mom stopped doing like weird shit with dad or whatever. And then yeah, so like life got good. You played sports, went to the same school and all that stuff. And then they effed off again. And by then I was old enough to see like what was going on. And then it was fucked up, man. It was really fucked up. And then it like I think it kind of like altered my like trajectory, you know, as like a person or whatever. So I remember like
Yeah, actually, oh, sorry. Go ahead. You remember what?
no, I remember like uh I like I was so going into like ninth grade, I was in all like this like the smart kid classes. I was like good in sports and all this stuff. And then when all that shit happened or whatever, I was just like, what's the fucking point? You know, like mom and dad aren't here, you know, like I just remember this like that whole I think I've always had kind of like the la 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 kind of gene in me or whatever, you know, like let's go hard, let's do a lot, let's have fun. But I remember around then that's when I was like, dude, this is fucked up and it's just not okay, you know, and it kind of like altered the course of like not only my family and my siblings, you know, but like myself as well. And kind of that's probably why I think
Were
why
you?
instead of like trying really hard in school and committing to sports forever, which I always thought I would, I ended up not getting big or growing. So I don't know if the sports thing would have worked out, but the school thing, I think I had some gifts in that arena. But after that, it was just like, let's go to school a little bit, let's party a little bit, let's fight a little bit, let's hang out with our friends for a little bit. So I think that's kind of what set me. And then come like, it's getting time to graduate or whatever. I was like, dude, I don't want to work for my dad part time, go to like school part time, and then work part time and all that shit. So I was like, let me just join the military. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't think you know, of course, like the service to country, like at least for me, like I grew up playing with the little army guys. I'm a boy
Yep.
and I love being on teams and sports and I'm fucking already kind of crazy. So it was like the military was like cool a little bit, but you know, and like USA and all that stuff, like that's like, you know, in my heart, of course. But
Oh yeah.
I kind of was like, I went into it like, dude, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. The military doesn't seem like too bad of an idea. Let me just put all my eggs in this basket. I just like just don't get in trouble, and you'll be okay for like a few years. You know what I mean? And then I'll find like direction. I guess you know what I mean.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean that's a thing that does happen. Like there are plenty of success stories of like a directionless kid who goes in the military and like figures out a lot of shit about himself, and it all works out. Like that does happen. Um, Before we go there though, I actually want to go back to something you said. So parents got back together. It was stable for a little bit, and then kind of went off the rails. And you were like, "Well, what's the point of any of this?" And that's when you kind of almost like gave up on pursuing school,
Yeah.
right? Do you feel like it was because, when you were a little kid, all that stuff that you said of, okay, if I just fly under the radar, if I get good grades, if I'm just like a good kid, then like everything will be cool. And it's almost like that strategy worked in your little kid brain for a little while because, like, hey, mom and dad got back together. It's stable now. Like, things are good. Like, I'm doing it. And then when it all fell apart, then your little kid brain was like, well, what the fuck was the point of all that stuff that I did? Like, it didn't actually work. Do you think am I hitting on something there, or am I just completely assigning meaning to something that happened years
It
ago that's
landed,
different?
bro. So I think it must be the truth, at least for me. I think maybe I've like put pieces of that together in like my like thought process of my story, but never like those words like just like that. And I think it landed for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's interesting too. With the stuff that we're talking about in our program right now, for context for our listeners, we kind of go through like shadow work and all this stuff, and we were just having a talk about anxiety coming up, despite you being in a really good place objectively, like on paper, crushing it in all these regards, and off paper, like you're actually crushing it in all these regards, but then still some anxiety coming in. And one thing I proposed to you is like, well, maybe there's part of your brain that's not used to things being this stable and this good for this long. And so your brain's kind of looking around for like the next shoe to drop or the next thing to go wrong. And so it's interesting that we can pull that thread all the way back to when you were a little kid. Shit was chaotic. You were in a shelter, like at this really low point. Parents got back together, things were stable. But guess what? Like the stability didn't stick around. So it's almost like your nervous system learned to be on the lookout because like it doesn't trust that things are just going to keep being stable.
big time.
And yeah, it's interesting to see these patterns And that's why I like going back to childhood stuff. Dude, I used to fucking roll my eyes when people talk about childhood trauma. I thought it was the stupidest shit because it seemed like everyone was complaining about childhood trauma and blaming it all on that. And, you know, like I was never abused as a kid. I never went to bed hungry. So I was like, I don't have trauma. Like, that's nonsense. But it turns out that most things are, in fact, explained by the
It all goes
experiences we
back
had as a
there,
kid.
bro. All of it. You know,
It
yeah,
does,
yeah.
man. All right. So why'd you pick the Navy?
Shit. Dude, I don't, dude, you know what? Like, I was like little, like a skateboarder. I boxed a little bit. You know, I played football. I didn't really know like what the fuck like each branch was. I know that Marines
Uh
seemed
huh.
fucking crazy and, you know, they're, you know, but I think my mom's boyfriend at this point, she had like left or whatever, but she like came back around towards the end of school. But I think his dad was a corpsman. And this is funny as I said that because it just stuck. I mean, like, I kind of really, I try not to carry like hate in my heart, or whatever, but like I like wish him well. Our relationship is far from whatever. I hope he's happy. I'll leave it at that. But he's probably the reason I became a corpsman in the military. I think my mom came like to see me at school one time, and I was in class or something had happened, but she told a recruiter who was on my like at my school. She said, "Hey, my kid's name is such and such. Can you speak with them?" And I think that was my first step into like let's do this kind of thing. So he ended up being a Navy recruiter. Uh, when he first like came to talk to me, I thought it was weird because it was like at school, and he's like, "Hey, I talked to your mom. She told me to talk to you." It's like, what the fuck? Who are you? I mean, you know, like my friends are there, and I'm sure I kind of did some. Oh, dude, he's you know whatever the fuck, you know, like left it off. But as it came closer to graduate, I think it became a thing. I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do this. So I think it's because my mom told the Navy recruiter to come talk to me, who was at my school, and then that's why I kind of went that way. And then I would talk to my mom's her boyfriend, and her dad was a corpsman, and then it just kind of seemed bad as fuck to me, you know, like you're gonna be like uh, a medical person, and I didn't know that we go with the Marines yet. You know, I didn't know that. So I was like, I'll go shoot X-rays, you know, for 4 years. I'll get out. I might go to Spain, you know, and then I'll be like 22, making like 60 grand a year when I get out. And to me, I was like, all right, that's what I'm gonna go do, you know. It didn't happen like that. So it ended up being like at all, you know. It's like I'm like a smaller dude too, man. Like I always have been. So it's like you, I go to boot camp right after high school, you know, and then I go to core school, which is you kind of just learn how to be like an LVN a little bit. And then while I'm there, you have these one instructors that are just like tanks, like their jaws are jacked and shit, you know? And then they're like buttoned up, they're squared away and all this shit. And the other half of the people, they're just like regular looking people, you know? But the ones that are all like squared away and stuff, they were FMF. So that means Fleet Marine Force. So when you're in the Navy, you can go green side or blue side. Green side is with the Marines. Blue side is Navy on ships and hospitals. So these
Okay.
jacked ass dudes, they were like, yeah, yeah, they were. I don't know. I just remember as a like 18, whatever. Like these guys are like, dude, you guys like what I imagine like like special forces kind of guys were. Because at this point, like I hadn't had like exposure or whatever, but so I was like, okay, let's go. So I did well in school. I think I've always done well in school, and I graduated at like the top of my class. And if you graduate at the top of your class, you can kind of pick where you go after. So the detailer came in, and I said, hey, I want to do like X-ray tech. That's what like my recruiter had told me, and she kind of laughed. And this was at 2007, so Iraq was already kind of it had been going on. So I was like, X-ray, and she kind of laughed, and she's like, we don't have any openings for that. And then I was like, but my recruiter said, and then as soon as I said my recruiter said, she laughed,
Of
in front of everybody. She's like,
course.
we got surgery tech, pharmacy tech, or lab tech. You got to re-enlist for another year. Uh, Tell me what you want by the end of the day. Like you have like 15 minutes or whatever. So I was like, fuck this. So I was already I had signed up for 5 years already as a doc. And, my head will get out 22, 23, the same thing. But X-ray wasn't on the table. I wasn't about to re-enlist for another year. So I just put West Coast. Like that's all I wanted to do. And then they ended up saying you're going West Coast FMF. So and I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, you going to Camp Pendleton? You're going to be with the Marines? So I was like, all right, well, then that was like my whole exposure. I'm going to be pretty much like a trauma field medic. You know what I mean?
Where was boot camp for you? Was that in California also?
Great Lakes, Illinois.
Ah, okay. Was that like your first taste of like being away from home?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Hmm. And then you wanted to go back to West Coast though,
big
just
time.
because you
Yeah.
knew that was your life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
okay.
go from like sunny Southern California to
Yeah, I could see
fucking
that.
Illinois, man. Like, it got so cold over there, my face chapped, and like, it sucked, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
you're like,
send me
what is
back
this?
home.
All right, so you get sent to be Fleet Marine Force. What is that like for you? You know, how soon are you going on deployment? Like, what's that workup and training cycle and all that kind of stuff? And any like highlights of experiences from there, or just kind of like went by?
It's easy enough. I think I just kind of like the military are really good at fucking like weaponizing your crazy. You know what I mean? So, like, if you're gifted a little bit up there, you're smart enough to not get in trouble. I was like good at sports. Academics always kind of came easier. And I was already always kind of like a little bit, I don't know, always kind of had that like that gene in me, like, let's go do some shit kind of shit. But I was good at it, bro. It was like I was really good at it. So I think it's all my skills that I had growing up, they served me where I was at, and especially like getting ready to go with the Marines and everything, that whole like the training evolution, we call it FMTB, so Field Medical Training Battalion. You kind of learn land nav, how to shoot, Marine Corps infrastructure, wear their uniforms, their regulations, and you have grunts that are your instructors. So you're in the Navy or whatever, but your instructors are other corpsmen who are greenside, and then you have a whole bunch of grunts that are instructors. So these crazy unhinged ass Marines that had just been to Iraq 2-3 times, that they're just fucking, they're a little bit deranged, bro, but they're pretty good. But I was just like, it came easy to me, man. And then I was like, I was good at it, like really fucking good. So, uh, like, you kind of like the military itself, bro. Like, and I don't mean this to fucking act like I made it through without scars or whatever, but I think Iraq wasn't that fucking bad. And I'm not saying it wasn't fucked, but I'm with my boys, right? Like, my time, I'm with my fucking boys. So, like, you put us on the moon, I'll be okay. But it's like, I think the conditioning of the military, and with the conditioning, doing the same shit day in, day out. So you're not even aware of it, just automatic kind of shit. But, like, having the identity and the purpose and like the brotherhood was probably like the biggest piece of it, like, for me. And I didn't know how big of a piece that was until I got out of the military. And I got med retired after I went to Iraq. So it's like, it's, I had, I had this psychologist tell me, he's like, some of our, no, a lot of our consciousness, trauma, upbringing, conditioning, well-being, whatever, it's situational. And then I kind of, when he originally said that, I thought he meant in the context of like what happens. But he's like, no, it's where you're at, who you're with, like, how you like how you are at the time you experience it, right? So it's like, it was like the
Yeah.
environmental part of being in the military, taking off the uniform, no longer knowing, like my best friends that are in my thing, I know the name of their girlfriend's dogs and stuff, you know what I mean? I know where they grew up, and it's like not having that anymore. Like, I think that fucked me up a little bit, because then because then all of a sudden it's real lifetime, like, let's go do civilian life. And like I said, I was really fucking good at the military, and getting out and doing that civilian life stuff, that would have been hard enough for any human being on the planet. But I went through too much, too quick, whatever. Soon divorced. I lost my kid brother. I fucking, was just like med retired from the military and all that shit. So I think for any human being on the planet, one of those would have been a lot, right? But you do them all at the same time to like a 24-year-old kid who just kind of like thought that I was ready, and kind of, was like, I love the military, but I was kind of happy to get the fuck out a little bit, even though I was like med retired and
Yeah.
stuff. But it was like, give me my DD 214, like, let's go do life. Let's go do community college. But, dude, like, if I could have gone back in time, I don't know I could have told like that kid anything, but, no, it's just my journey was my road. And dude, it was fucking hard, bro. really fucking hard.
Well, you shared something I hear honestly more often probably than the opposite, which is dudes missing being deployed. You know, like they saw and did the most fucked up shit in Iraq or Afghanistan, but a consistent thing that I hear is that life made more sense over there and everything was just easier because you know exactly what you're supposed to do. Like you wake up and there's no question of what am I going to do today or what am I supposed to be doing with my life? Like that's laid out for you. You're with your best friends ever, right? And you feel like you're doing something important. And then you get back and now you have to figure out what to do all day. You don't have any friends probably, and now you have bills, and now you have maybe a crazy wife telling you what you should be doing and you not wanting to do it, all that kind of stuff. So like that's something that I hear so often. I talk to tons of people online, and that's a very consistent theme. Is that like stuff just made more sense, or life was easier on deployment. So it makes a lot of sense hearing you say that. And yeah, man, like you kind of joined the Navy because you didn't really know what you were supposed to be doing with civilian life when you were graduating high school. And so it's not like you figured any of that out in a meaningful way in the Navy. And then you just get dumped back in civilian life and like everything that you liked about the military was taken from you. And now you're not any closer to figuring out how civilian life is supposed to work either. So it doesn't surprise you that that transition was kind of rough.
Well, when you put it that way,
Yeah, dude.
yeah. Then a thing too, bro,
Hey,
is like I would fucking like I had like said this like a long time ago, right? But like as dudes, we like hold ourselves up to this perfection thing or like hyper performance, right? And so if I'm not above average in the beginning, like what the fuck's the point of even trying? You know what I mean? And uh that's not really how life's supposed to go. Like maybe it was the first few chapters or whatever, but it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, you can only listen to the best song ever so many times before you want to fucking change the channel a little bit, you know. But I had like old ways of thinking and they were rigid as fuck, you know. So it's like, I don't know, bro. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I don't really. I think I maybe lost that one a little bit, but um,
Hey, how was like the med retirement process? I just spoke to Jake about this. It's another thing that I hear really commonly. Maybe you were a little bit more excited to get out of the military, but it seems like a lot of dudes who get med retired, it's almost like they're being forced out, or it's kind of like against their will, or you know, it's being like taken away from them.
yeah.
Did you feel that at all, or you were kind of on board with leaving?
And actually, brother, was, dude. Yeah, that's like I can tell you're versed in this domain or whatever because like how you.
I talked to a lot of people
Yeah,
though.
yeah. So, dude. Okay, so I
It's
had.
part of my stolen valor.
You're the man, brother. Uh, I had re-enlisted, right? Because I got married, had like that little like the family thing. I was good enough at the
Okay.
military or whatever, so I re-upped, and then I started to have like my like injuries from my rack or whatever, like the mild TBI. I started to have like the seizures and shit. So I hit him at first, bro, because I didn't like want to get out, you know. So I hit him.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. So you were having seizures from a
Yeah,
TBI?
yeah, yeah. That's kind of
Was that from like a blast
yeah,
injury?
yeah, yeah. So like when I was deployed, like I was with a security team, and we would go on a 9 and like the 15 lines, which is our EOD team. Each time they went out, we would like go out like with them, you know. So during like
Okay.
one of the things, or during like a few of the missions, I was exposed to some of the blasts, and it kind of like left a mark. But it wasn't until probably like a year and a half after I got back where I had my first like grand mal like the seizure like from it, and then I hid that one, and then I hid the few that came after that, and then it happened one time after I was driving, and I didn't know what the fuck it was at first. The first one I just thought like I stood up too fast because I was young, I was in shape and everything, and then dude, I remember like it was probably like my third or my fourth one or whatever. Like I split my head open, I broke my shoulder and shit, and then I had just got done driving. I was like, dude, fuck, dude. Like, what if I went through like somebody's fucking house? So fuck. So I like went into my command and everything, and I said, hey guys, I've been having like these like episodes, and they did an EEG, and they found out I had a spike in like brain waves from like left to the right side or whatever. So did the EEGs and kind of found out that I had yeah, like the head injury would cause me to have the like whatever. So that began in like my med board process, and then that whole fucking thing kind of sucked ass because they treat you like a redheaded like the stepchild, you know, like you just hyper performed, you kicked ass, you're like a team guy, you're the fucking man on the team or whatever, you're doc, you know, like you busted your ass. Then it's like now we're gonna send you over here to get med retired, and like not only am I kind of making peace with the fact that okay, I have this new injury, which is I don't know, like it doesn't seem like much now, but as a 24-year-old man, it was fucking like deafening, you know. And then you're like no longer with your guys, and they're all like going on to their next fucking like command anyway. But
Right.
it was
Yep.
a lot, bro. Like I'm gonna take off the uniform. I have this new injury kind of thing. So there's this thing. Oh, there is something wrong with you. You know, goes in the back of your mind like there's something fucking wrong with you, and it's like yeah, I was just too young to probably like process all of it. You know what I mean? And then it's like, but throughout that med boarding process, dude, they treat you like it was kind of fucked up, bro. It's like you're just like at that. I kind of felt like it was like fucking like degrading as fuck, and it was like a really shitty process.
I imagine because literally one day you're part of the team, especially for you as a corpsman, you're perhaps like in a little elevated position, like
Yeah,
respected, you know? And then literally the next day, now that there's something wrong with you, because of the shit that you were doing for them and as part of that team, now you're completely on the outside. Nobody gives a shit about you. If anything, they're putting you down or looking down on you because now you're weak or damaged or something wrong with
yep.
you. And then all your buddies and stuff, like they have to continue with their mission, with their training. Like they can't, be with you because like they have to go focus on their shit. So yeah, dude, that's gotta fucking that's gotta
Never
suck,
rains
man.
a pause. No, it was shitty, bro. It was shitty. I've had to do some like work on that or whatever. But like at the time, it
Yeah.
just I think that's when I really lost like probably one of like if when I trace it back, that's kind of where I lost the ability to like advocate for myself a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of
Mm,
talking up anyway? And just let it happen. Just let it happen. Because it's like, dude, I
yeah.
just like
Well, yeah. So
I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask, as you said, you were kind of too young to really process that stuff. So like, how did you handle it? Did that turn into the anger? Did that turn into the drugs? Or it sounds like just whatever, just kind of letting it all happen, almost as like a passive participant, because you didn't even really know what else to
That's
do.
good questions, bro. Seriously, man. Uh
Thanks, man. I should have a podcast or something.
I think, dude, I just like stuffed it a little bit, you know, because like, and it was a lot of like conflicting things because like, you're at this, you know, you're getting out, whatever, and you have these people that are treating you like whatever. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? But then it's like, when it comes time to that, it's like, these people, they don't even deserve this. And even if I do that, it's not going to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, so what's the point? What's the point? So I think, yeah, I just like, I stuffed it and then I kind of like started like to hang my head, but there was like a division in here somewhere, dude. And I like remember that too, because it was like, uh, I think that's when I first started like myself, at least, where I was first like consciously aware of like maybe like my mental health isn't okay a little bit, you know, because Iraq, you're like still with your boys and everything like that, and I was married, so like you had like the family part of it, so I was like fulfilled, you know, enough, you know, like, but I was like not sleeping, and then when I would sleep, I was just like more tired, and it was weird because I used to teach like the classes, you know, like to the Marines, like PTSD well-being classes, but when it's happening to you, it's like it's a trip, bro. So like I don't even think I was consciously in denial. Just over fucking loaded, dude. And I think some of that shit, dude, like yeah, you just kind of learn to put your head down because like what's the point of it anyway? And I think like that one fucked me up for like a bit, you know.
Yeah, not to be just like the fucking annoying cliched spiritual thing, but like there's that pattern again of like stuff was you were killing it in the military, stuff was pretty stable, you had your family, like that was all cool, and now something happens and now it's chaotic again. And like what was the fucking point of trying? What's the point of trying now? It's all being taken away from me again.
Took me like
It's
a
crazy.
decade of therapy, or I'm not probably 8 years to like get to that point where what you had said, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
good. You're
And then
good.
also, um, what you said, yeah, okay, so you're the guy kind of teaching these classes about like, hey, PTSD awareness, like, hey, this is how it works, these are the symptoms, all this stuff. And then you're finally like, oh, maybe I'm not okay either. That's even harder because it's like, well, PTSD, that's a thing that happens to other people, right? Like I'm okay. I distinctly remember feeling that because when I was growing up, my siblings had all kinds of problems, and I distinctly remember my sister coming home from like a therapist appointment. I don't know how old I was, and she was all excited to go tell my dad that she had anxiety because I was like a label that the therapist gave her, and yeah, I just remember being in grad school and being super fucking depressed and being like, oh no, like I guess I have mental health problems too. And that was really defeating because I was like, no, that's something that like weak, fucked up
Yep.
people deal with. Like I'm the good one. I'm the normal one. Like this isn't supposed to be happening. When I was talking to Jake earlier, we talked about like the self awareness being one of the biggest things that has to be in place before the medicine's actually going to help you with anything. So yeah, just kind of coming around to realize that like I'm not as okay as I thought I was is shitty, but also a necessary part of the process.
Also nicely put, bro. Yeah, big time, man. It's dude, I don't, like, cause like we have these gifts, we have these strengths, we have these experiences, at the end of the day, dude, and it's taken me a long time because my ego didn't want me to even fucking say this, but dude, it's like still just fucking human. You know what I mean? Like I could, and then dude, I have to like learn that often, or like, I have to like,
Remember?
yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, like, what the fuck were you supposed to do? 'Cause I used to fucking like condemn
Yeah.
myself for fucking like not being perfect or not handling these like fucked up like not just like events, but like sequence of events for years. Like why didn't I handle it perfect with a cape and come out unscathed? And it's like, dude, I was like in these, and to me at least, I was in these impossible situations, and then it's like I think I just was doing my fucking very best, you know what I mean? So like before we like had started, like I said, I just went through too much for too long, too quick. And it was true, I just like lost a career, at the time, like identity being, and it wasn't like my choice, but it's like you were saying, what's the fucking point anyway? And when I got out, it was like, here's your fucking DD-214 and like your disability, go to community college, give us your uniform, bye. And it kind of felt like that, and it's like, now what? So it's like, but
How did you feel about that label of like the disability?
not cool at all,
Were you
bro.
like, all right, cool, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, you're good, bro. No, because it's cool because you're versed in here, which is good because I don't have to. No, but it's like, dude, I remember like my kid brother and my dad, they told people about it, and it fucking.
Mm,
I remember that was one of the first times like I told my dad, like sober, like as an adult, like you fucked up, bro. And I didn't feel good. Like he was always my dad. Like my siblings, they fought with my dad, not me. You know what I mean? Like dad's dad. But I told him like, hey, dude, like you fucked up. I told you not to tell anybody because I felt like, dude, you're handing like dude, honestly, like you're handing in your DD-214 for like a welfare check. You know? I was like, I don't know, bro. And like I don't know. It was kind of like the whole thing, like you're med retired, you're disabled, you're this and that, and I don't know. It was kind of its own like fucking shit that I've had to do work on. But
yeah, dude, that's a whole trip by itself. Especially maybe it's changing a bit nowadays, but because it's a double-edged sword of dudes try to maximize their disability rating to maximize their check,
yeah,
but then it's also like, well, am I that disabled? Like, what does that do to you mentally of like wanting to be more disabled? And it's got to be difficult to uncouple that. Um, and yeah, I mean, you're this kid who doesn't really have too much direction, don't really have too strong of like an identity. Certainly not one that you want, other than being the kid of fuck up drug addicts, right? And then this recruiter's like, here's an identity to put on. You're gonna be a Navy corpsman. You're like, okay, cool. And then they're like, psych, not anymore. Now you're a disabled
Fake
veteran. And you're
out.
like, oh, okay. Like, I guess I'm disabled now. What the fuck? I probably put way too much emphasis or just sound like a broken record talking about like the identity thing, but I really do feel like that's the entire mechanism by which healing happens is recognizing the identities that have been put on you perhaps against your will and then choosing to change them for yourself. Um, so yeah, what year are we talking? Like when you get out, when you get this disability rating and all that kind of stuff, like what time
Yes,
frame?
I think it was probably 2013. So after like 6 years, I think it was like 24 at that time.
Okay. It's 2013, 24-ish. Living at home with your parents? Like where or no, you're married at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
So you're
So it was like
living just
Mary. Yeah. So I was like, she's from. We were sorry, had an apartment from where I grew up still. So I was in like the
okay.
Riverside area, but like stationed about an hour away.
Hmm. What was your wife doing during that time? She working? She home? What was she up to?
Whatever. Who knows, bro? No, I'm kidding. It was like cool back then. Yeah, she had like a job thing or whatever, and we were just kind of like young and whatever. So it was just kind of whatever at that point, I guess. It wasn't bad yet.
Okay. All right, man. Uh, I'm just gonna reiterate. You have the right to plead the fifth on any question that I ask you. Before we started, I asked if anything was off topic, and you said no. So I'm gonna ask my fucking questions, but you can, answer to whatever degree you want to. I can cut whatever shit out if you don't like how it sounds.
Attaboy.
But
Okay, right
it's my
on,
little
right on.
disclaimer for you. Um, Talk to me about the marriage at that point, because this is the first time I've done a podcast with someone who's a current client. It's usually like on the other side of working through everything. So like we're gonna work through some shit potentially like during this
Yeah, let's
podcast.
handle business, big
But
dog.
I know that this is a huge part of the shame that's wrapped up in
Oh,
everything.
absolutely,
And
bro.
frankly, a huge part of like some of the avoidance that's been happening.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the unraveling, perhaps is the right word there. Like what happened?
Yeah, okay. It's a trip, bro. She was like my it's like she was my best friend's like older yeah, yeah. So she was my best friend's sister. So I've known her since I
Okay.
was a kid, you know what I mean? And then it was cool cuz like my best friend was my brother, which was kind of a cool thing. But she had a kid like when I was like before we had got hitched or whatever. So
Okay.
I thought it was kind of cool though cuz it was like a stepdad, had the family, the structure, which was cool. It served me for like, oh, I mean, it was like good for me, like have the family, have the military kind of thing. Got med retired. I got out, and I think, dude, like again, I've had to done a tremendous amount of work on this one as well because I used to blame her for a lot because she ended up like stepping out and everything, and I had put hands on her too at like one point in time, and then I got arrested for that for a DV thing like a year after I got out, and then but she stepped out. We were kind of like I didn't kind of find some of this out till later. I kind of did have like the family component kind of thing. Was she just some fucking crazy spiteful fucking bitch? Probably not. That's not who I married. Like were we probably already going our separate ways? Probably who knows, but I think like what was she supposed to do? It's kind of like not all there at that point. Just med retires, kind of had some mental health stuff. Her parents were fucked up too, bro. You know what I mean? So I wasn't dealing with the healthiest person to begin with, but at the time I didn't know. But uh, it just kind of ended up fucking horrifically, bro. It fucked me up, and then it's like I remember, like, dude, I thought I was a good stepdad, dude. And I remember loving her and everything. We had like the, if there was anything that I had was like the home, like at least in my head, that was safe. That was safe because you get out of the military, you don't have the uniform anymore, you don't have your boys anymore. But like, dude, I just swallowed all that shit, kind of put my head down a little bit, just one step after another, one step after another. And dude, I was fucking, I think like fucking like major depression kind of shit. Like the only way to live life was to fucking turn it all the way down and just kind of go like this, and just whatever. So I don't think it was in her lens, like I was probably the easiest person to deal with. Uh, I don't know if the chicken came first before the egg on that one, bro. I used to obsess on it. It really doesn't fucking matter. But You
Yeah.
know, I was like drinking a little bit, I was partying a little bit, uh, and then yeah. So I don't know, bro. It ended up like it came out in the wash. She had, you know, her things on the side or whatever when I was in school and all that shit, or trying just to do this civilian shit. And I was struggling bad, dude. I remember like at the time, like I've always been a smaller dude, but I gained weight in my face, bro. And I had been to the VA and shit. And like, hey, there's like something's not right with me. And that's hard to fucking tell somebody, you know? But at that point, you're in the VA healthcare system, you know? And it's like, whatever. And they're like, you know, we'll see you in fucking 3 months. Here's like 10 meds. And
Dude, probably my favorite meme I've ever seen is like a fake ad for the VA, and it's like one more chance to die for your country by getting VA care.
dude, knowing what I know about mental health now, dude,
Yeah.
fuck, man. I went and seen like a crises person, dude, and they fucking, the door is open. She kept answering the phone. She said, I have an appointment. She's like, I have a meeting upstairs, just so you know. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? You know, like, I don't even want to say
It's so
anything's wrong with
fucked,
me
man.
anyway, lady. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah, right?
but, you know, I just, whatever. But, yeah.
Also, real quick, when you explained your ex and you're like, yeah, she was the sister of my best friend, and my best friend was my brother, I was like, is this a Joe Dirt situation? Like, were you fucking married to like your sister? It took my brain a second to realize like he was like a
Yeah,
brother
yeah,
to
yeah.
me.
Joe Dierte. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's my fucking one of my favorite movies, dude. Anyway, um, and yeah, man, with what you're saying of like, hey, was it the chicken or the egg? Like, dude, it sounds like you were two deeply fucked up individuals coming together trying to make a marriage work, and neither of you had any idea how the fuck to do
Pretty
that.
much, bro.
Uh, and you have PTSD and depression from this whole thing, and you have a fucking brain injury that's causing you to have seizures. So like, we're not in the best starting point here, dude.
Yeah.
Uh, Fuck, man. So yeah, tell me about the meds. So the VA just had you on just like a bunch of different fucking pills for the seizures, for the depression, for
For
what?
everything, bro. And yeah, I guess at that point too, dude, I didn't know up from down. You know what I mean? Like the only way that I could
Yeah,
have managed, put my head down, make everything really silent, you know, just to fucking cope at that point. And then, but that wasn't overnight, right? So yeah, I remember they gave me anti
sure.
seizure meds, and then they gave me like, that's when they first started, you know, because like on your way out, they're like, "Are you anxious or this or that or whatever?" And it's like you're kind of like, "No, I guess," or whatever. But they're like, "Here's an antidepressant or whatever," and they kind of don't explain it too much. And they're like, "If you're taking this one, you're gonna take this one." So you go from 0 meds to fucking 20 of them, and then like, but the ones that kind of like worried me were like the anxiety and the depression ones, because there's nothing wrong with me, bro. You know, like, there's nothing wrong with me. And then it's like, especially up here, if I can control anything, it's what's going on up here. There's nothing wrong there, but you know, and then whatever. So, but then they're like, yeah, and here's some Viagra too, though. And the lady, I remember when she told me, she like act like she was hooking me up, bro. She's like, so I'm gonna prescribe you the strong dose because legally we can only give you like it was like 6 a month. So I'll give you the strong dose and you could cut in half, like 24, bro. I'm like, I'm getting out of the fucking, you know, I was like, what the fuck? Okay, lady. But yeah. So, you know, then enter meds, and that's where I started. Like, I would like take the seizure ones. I didn't touch like the mental health ones or the anxiety and depression ones. Like after like the first like 2 or 3 ones, because if they give you one and it's not working, they bunk it up by like 5 milligrams. And then they give you 6 more
Yeah,
weeks and they bunk it up by 5 milligrams. So by the time I was on my
yeah.
third med, on the third fucking milligram, whatever, I was like, dude, fuck no, I'm not doing this guinea pig shit anymore. You know,
Hmm.
dude, I don't even think the weight of everything that had just happened had settled in quite yet. You know what I mean? I wasn't, you know what I mean? I
Everything that
just,
had
fuck, dude,
happened
I just
with
obsess on if I
the
could go back in time and change anything, would I? And then, you know, like as humans, we're like we have to attach meaning to something to make it make sense. And dude, some shit just is what the fuck it is. You know what I mean? And it was like, dude, like you said, kid, you kind of grew up little, whatever, got married, whatever, was in the military, whatever. But it's like, those are like important events. Definitely. But at the time, dude, like they were absolute, like in my life. And it took me a long time to be able to remove my attachment to these things. And maybe like you were saying, like my identity of it kind of thing. Cause at the time, dude, I was just, I remember just like, dude, what's the fucking point of all of it, dude? You know, like went from like the happy, high performing, fucking loved life. You know what I mean? Because even like how I grew up and everything like that, bro, I always was told I kind of had like this zest kind of for life, bro. You know, like because like you know, like my parents did get clean, you know, for a long time. Sorry, like a long time, you know, and I felt like security into our home, you know, and it is unfortunate that it ended the way that it did, you know, but I think I was always had like an appreciation for like more of like uh like maybe like not aware of it at the time, but like spirituality or like just be a good fucking dude to people. You know what I mean? Because I've kind of been through some hell and I've had some labels put on me even as a child, but I was always a fucking good dude still. So, but like going through like these big chapters at the same time and all that shit, dude, it's just like I remember like I was fucking hurting bad, dude, and I wasn't even aware of it. I might have just went a few different places on that one. My bad. So, but
That's quite all right,
yeah, I
man.
just remember, dude, I was just fucking hurting bad, dude, and I was like, was there anything that could have been done? I don't know, bro, because I had some good people in my life. I was working at the vet center at school. I was going to like a community college, but like I was saying, dude, I remember I gained like weight in my face and I was like, I just had to turn everything down just to like get by. But I was like, so I used to wonder, like, when
Can
I'm
you
sorry.
can you explain that a little bit more when you say like turn everything down to get by? I've heard some other people describe it as like their anxiety makes it so that their world gets real small because like they just kind of stop going to the gym and they stop going to the grocery store and like it just becomes like they just kind of exist within their house. Is that what you mean, or are you referring to something else when you say like just turning everything down? Because you keep saying that, so I want to understand like what you mean.
Okay. Yeah, probably like there's like a piece of that in there for sure, brother. You know, like, uh, I just think to like, maybe it was like just kind of get numbed the fuck out. And I think like, dude, like you kind of, you know, I just went through some, you know, I just found out my chick was cheating. I just got like kicked out of the military. You know, this fucking civilian life fucking sucks. I think I should be like doing better than I am, but I'm walking around here fucking feeling broken. I'm fucked off. You know, just completely. I was like a raw nerve flapping in the fucking wind, bro. You know, and then like it was probably the first time in my life, right? I was like, dude, what the fuck is going on? You know, like I don't know. So it's like I think just to maybe get by and cope, like maybe subconsciously or whatever, it's like, dude, like I can't react to this. I can't solve this. I can't even begin to fucking make sense of that. So let me just like turn everything down a little bit. You know what I mean? And you know, like let me turn everything down. And maybe that's like a, because of the anxiety and depression, or like my brain's very best way of coping. It's like, dude, I can't even fucking handle that. There is no way because I'm not even done with this over here. You know?
And is that where alcohol and drugs entered the picture to help you turn the volume down on all that?
Yeah, dude. I remember when I first found out that my fucking old lady was like the extent of like what was going on in my house, kind of shit. And then I had like some. It fucking dude like that. For whatever reason, dude, that was like the icing on the cake for me. But you know, like just in this
Yeah.
hour that we've been working, like you know, my shit started as a fucking kid. You know, you throw the military on there, then whatever, but trauma touches trauma, I guess, right? So when that shit had happened, dude, again, what's the fucking point, right? So then it's like, yeah, so like I was probably at that point in time, I remember the VA had gave me pain meds and I liked those a lot. So there was definitely already a tendency or a habit there where pain meds were like booze, I can like go without at times, but I probably was always, I had tendencies with drinking, but I could go without drinking. You know, but when I drank, I fucking drank. But when the pain meds entered the equation, they like turned shit down. Yeah, yeah, they made it feel good. So I'd finish a month in a week and get some up the side, you know. And then when the shit really, really, really fucking hit the fan, bro, I was like, you know, I remember I fucking contacted a person that I knew had fucking like drugs, like meth. And I remember like I think out of all the drugs I could have went and grabbed, maybe somewhere in here was like, dude, like, again, what's the fucking point anyway? So I went to the one drug that I fucking hated because it fucked my family up, So then I was like, dude, fuck it. So then I started meth. I started using meth, and very fucking soon, dude, that thing took over. So meth, and then heroin. So I like went from pretty good enough dude, whatever. I was always anti-drug as fuck. I hated drugs, but uh like vehemently is my SAT word for the day. I'm not gonna try to use a second one, but I fucking hated drugs, bro. I really did. And later on, when I had friends or like friends of the family that found out that I was like struggling, they're like they told me I had like some friends' moms. They were like, Billy, I thought it was booze. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. You're always a good cat. I thought if anything, it would have been booze. I was like, no, I fucking went from fucking pretty like good enough dude. I was just fucking struggling, struggling fucking hard. Yes, and then when fucking drugs entered the equation, kind of went from fucking like pain meds and buying a little bit more, which is bad. Like you kind of go from like shallow end to fucking swimming in a tsunami. I went from fucking like abusing my pain meds to fucking IV drug use within like a few months.
Yep. I mean, dude, that's like the story that everyone kind of has, especially during like the whole opiate epidemic and all this shit that happened. Like this is exactly how it plays out. You get prescribed some pain medication, you're like, "Oh, this is kind of nice." And then all of a sudden the pain medication runs out and you're like, "Well, where can I get some more of that?" And that's when you start injecting heroin. Like it, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is like it makes sense to be hearing this. Like this is the type of story that you hear, you know?
Happens to the best of us. No, dude, there's still like
Yeah.
a sense of like I've done, dude, again, like recovery is my life, and it's not just from fucking booze and drugs, but just like more like the mental health and like the spiritual side of it, whatever the fuck that word means, right? But it's like my whole life is kind of revolves around like healing or like in some aspect or avenue, and I didn't wake up like that, but it's just how things
Yep.
fell, and I'm thankful for it too. But
Yeah, actually, I wanted to skip ahead to that for a second because we're gonna come back. We're gonna linger in the darkness a little bit more, but I have to ask this question because it keeps coming up. Where you kept coming back to this question of like, what's the fucking point, right? And like we talked about how that played out as a kid in the military, and that led you to fucking smoking meth because like, hey, what's the fucking point?
right, right.
Have you answered that now? Like, is that part of you being clean? Is like you actually have an answer to that question of what's the point? Or is that still something that you grapple
You
with?
ask good questions, bro. Fuck. That's more like the feeling I get from like living the life that I currently live, I guess, is like,
Yep.
like if anything good at all came from it, is like, let's say my, like, not only my ability to connect with you on kind of the matter, but
Mm-hmm.
there's like other people out there that have no fucking, I like haven't even, maybe they're on like that first stage or two of their fucking story, like their old lady just left, or maybe they still have the marriage, but drugs and alcohol are fucking like destroying everything. And but it's like, dude, I've been there, brother, and especially within like the veteran community, because I do a lot of peer support stuff. But if anything good came from that fucking bullshit, because something good has to come from the bullshit, right? God enters through the wound. I like that one, but some of the time the ego, and it's still like throughout this story, ego wants to like say like maybe you share too much, or maybe they think this, or like you're not going to be perceived as this if you say this. That's just fucking old ways of thinking, And I'd be like remiss to think that just because I get clean and sober to think that all of a sudden my conscience is perfect. But dude, I've like when I'm like present and like being sober gives me the ability to even start doing that shit, right? But it's like to start working on some of that shit that fucking I'm probably like, dude, I'm lucky to fucking be alive, dude. But then it's like to even like have the capacity or like to have a conversation like this is kind of like a miracle, right? But it's like I get to work with other vets or like people, period. But like especially with like in like the veteran community is like be with them, and it's like, dude, like I get it, bro. I know what it's like to be so fucked off you don't even want to fucking live anymore. And I know what it's like to be so fucked off and not even want to live anymore and not even know how to put words to it. I get that.
Well, And it sounds like that's become your answer to that question of what's the point is like the connection that you can forge now with
Big
people,
time, brother.
and ideally being a force for good in their lives also. But I think everyone's got to be able to answer that question of what's the point to themselves on some level. Cordy hates it when I ask people this question, like oftentimes, because you've done this. Like we had our discovery call where I was finding out about you, figuring out if our program was a good fit, and then basically like pitch you on the program, right? On those calls, I talk to a lot of people who have dealt with suicidal ideation, and I always ask them, why didn't you kill yourself? Because if they haven't actually acted on that suicidal ideation, it means they still are holding on to something that is the point, right? Like they haven't gotten completely hopeless. There's still something that they're holding on to of like, okay, things can get better. And then the plot twist is when I ask that question, well, why didn't you kill yourself? And someone's like, well, actually, I did try twice unsuccessfully. And then the follow up question is always like, well, first it's like, oh fuck, and then the follow up, they called my bluff. But then the follow up question is like, all right, well, what do you make of the fact that you're still
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
Because I feel like that's got to be one of the most spiritual experiences is trying to kill yourself and failing. Because on the one hand, like, damn, I can't even do anything right. I couldn't even fucking kill
Mhm.
myself. I really am a piece of shit. But most people that I've talked to have found some meaning in it, and usually it's something like what you said, being able to share their story or being able to connect to people in some way or alchemize it into
There's
something
that
good.
word.
So that's right, dude. How to sneak that in there. Um, this is also why like I could never be a regular therapist because I'm just like making jokes about people killing themselves. But I like to think that's why people like working with us.
Well, absolutely.
But
Okay,
all right,
if you were green, right? You like, I don't know. If you've been around it enough, you know what I mean. You can be like desensitized a little bit, but then it also, dude,
a
it's
little
like
bit.
the nature of the beast in like the mental health field. You know what I mean? And it's like if I let it become dark and muddy forever, it'll stay dark and muddy forever. If you make a quip at it a little
That's right.
bit, it kind of, it shows that you're like seasoned in the area a little bit. I think, bro.
You gotta laugh, man. Dude, actually no. All right, we'll save that for later. I want to go back to something that you said when you were in the thick of it. Going through all the shit with your ex, going through the shit with getting out, fucked up with all these medications. One of the things that you said you were feeling was like, I should be doing better than I am now. Because I'm sure as a kid, you never planned on being all fucked up, retired, disabled veteran with a wife who's cheating on him. I'm sure that wasn't your life plan to end up in that position. Um, Tell me some more about that because I think a lot about that word should.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, during my first ayahuasca retreat, I went down this whole like really long thought loop in my mind. So I don't even know if this is true, but I read one time that there's some Native American tribes where in their language they don't have words to describe the past tense. And because of that, like because their language doesn't encapsulate it, it means that they're always very present, like they're always living in the present moment because they literally don't have the language to conceptualize the past in that way. And I was sitting there on ayahuasca thinking about this, and I was thinking like how different would our lives be if our language didn't have the word should in it? Because inherent in the word should is self-judgment of like I'm supposed to be different and I'm not and therefore I am bad. So I sat there for like hours tripping myself out about like what if I never learned that word should. Um, so maybe I think about this way too much, but tell me about your experience with that, of that idea of like I should be doing better than I am.
Yeah.
Was that a big part of it, like that self judgment or kind of comparison, or I don't know, just feeling like a fucking
Oh,
failure for where you ended up? And
fuck, dude, absolutely. Years, dude, for fucking years, man. Years. Yeah, bro. Yeah. No, so I think you probably like think about it like accordingly. You know what I mean? Because you probably like
mm,
in my fucking dude, and like in my experiences with recovery and just life, I guess. Dude, life is fucking recovery, dude. If you're not like if you're trying to get better and heal, you know. But in my story, it has little to do with the drinking or drug, dude. But it's like that should and that fucking ego and that competitiveness that served me for a long fucking time. You know, like I fuck, dude. I when it I don't know, like I guess it turned against me, you know what I mean? Like I dude, I remember when I was at my lowest or whatever, dude, like let's say strung out fucking like my like using career, the running and gunning part of it ended up with like in like it's like in 2020. I remember I was in Inglewood, California. You know what I mean? Skinny white boy, and not in a good fucking neighborhood at all. But I was there for about a year, and like the COVID thing was happening, but I didn't even know what the fuck was going on. But I remember just even being a shell of a human, you know, scabs everywhere, malnourished, completely removed from society for fucking how long? I didn't even have a cell phone. But I remember, dude, that judgment and that should and that self condemnation shit was the only fucking voice that was really there, bro. So that's how strong that shit is in my story, you know, and like in therapy and recovery and all this shit, you know, we all have inner critics and all this shit. But it's like some of that I get it's been in my own life, it had been there for fucking ever. And then it was like some of it I had it and it served a purpose to an extent. Some of it probably like kept me alive or it was conditioned, you know, as a result to keep me alive or was like a byproduct of me living through some shit. Who knows, right? But um I remember, dude, when all that shit was fucking happening, dude, it was like my ego was really fucked up. Like she did this because of A, B, and C, because of me. You know, it was my fault, or if I was better, or all this shit, right? Or I like internalize the external and it like it's a point to sink my shit, bro. And it's like fuck, I that's just like the best I could have done at the time. But it's like I get why I did what I did and kind of like how the brain was operating. But it it was kind of unfair for myself and it's kind of like and I've done work on this one too. You kind of hurt for that the 24-year-old, that 25-year-old, the 26-year-old, 27, wherever it was, right? That young man who was going through all that shit. You know what I mean? And he was fucking judging himself from this rigid, almost like militant fucking like you whatever. Where the time when I needed grace, love, and understanding and perspective, the absolute most, I was like, you know, being, you know, like the drunk dad cop or the judge, you know, just like, what the fuck? You should. And dude, I get why some vets, other men out there, or whatever, I get why. And I've had some friends that aren't here anymore because of it, but it's like why we don't end up getting better, dude. Because when you're there and you're stuck there, and it's like that's the fucking turning point, right? Fear is like or pain, sorry, is like the touchstone of growth. But some of us don't get to fucking hit that, and I only got to hit that because I had fucking like God or the universe or goddess through the fucking most beautiful, understanding people in my life along the way, and I wasn't even consciously aware of it at the time with some of them, but like the way we talk to ourselves sometimes, bro, especially when we're fucking hurting, it's like 22, at least 22 vets a day or whatever. But like, we're like not here anymore. Right. And it's like, I get it, you know, I get it. Like, I've like been there, I guess to an extent, but it's like that conditioning and all that shit. That's what's fucking, it's just in there, you know, and that pressure and shit too. And the comparison. It's funny because when you're so fucked off, right? It's just like like I think it maybe the conditioning. You know what I mean? Like it's still there and it's still loud, even when you're fucked off. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
Well, maybe, and this is a thought I literally just had right now. I don't know. But what I was saying, how, dudes talk about shit being easier on deployment because it's simple. You know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. There's no thoughts, no questions of like what you're supposed to be doing or striving for. Maybe that's kind of similar to like when you're using because like all those thoughts are still there, but then like the most pressing problem is like where am I getting more heroin from? Or like what am does that make any sense at all? Like it almost simplifies things to like just this one thing in
Oh,
front
I
of you.
get you, brother.
I
Yeah,
say that having never done heroin, so I don't know if that's true at
yeah,
all.
yeah. You're not missing out
But
on too much, brother. I promise you. But no, 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 no. It makes sense, brother. It's like it's more like it's chaos, but it's like simple enough, right? Just do this. Just do this. I don't know. I think like
yeah,
and I'm sure there could be like a piece of that in there. I think my big thing was like my using was directly proportionate to the pain, the chaos and confusion that I was feeling on the inside, right? So like the war outside
Sure.
reflects the
Yeah.
one within. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I know, kind of know how it started, but addiction's its own fucking thing, bro. But it was no longer pain meds and alcohol, you know? So at the end of it, dude, I was fucking full blown addiction. All the, you know, from the time it started to the time it ended, it might as well just been the same story. You know, it was fun, consequences and all that shit that they say, but it was a medicine that worked for a bit, bro. You know, it worked for a little bit.
Well, that's the thing with all addictions, man. That's how I look at it. You did not have a meth problem or a heroin problem. You had a drug solution to anxiety, self-worth, depression. Like that was the problem. The drugs were the solution to that. Obviously not a fucking good solution, but hey, that was it worked for as long as it did. So I wanna pivot a little bit. Why did you get out of that? So when you're talking about that should cycle, why were you not why are you not still in that cycle now? Almost my question of like, hey, why didn't you kill yourself, right? So like, why aren't you fucking dead from a fentanyl overdose? Why aren't you like given a blowjob to get a dime bag? Like, why are you here now and not still there?
Because I can only get a nick for it. Kidding.
Fuck,
Like a
dude,
nickel
you're
back.
not that good.
No, dude, I would like to say in 2020 when I finally got clean or whatever for whatever, that just something clicks and then it's no longer darkness. It's just all lightness. You know, I would like to say that, but that's not my story, bro. You know, it's like a continual thing. Like you work in this space, right? And I'm sure there's still fucking days or times you have where, you know, you have to like sit with some unsettling shit or, you know, like an area of consciousness, you know what I mean? Or just like some of it
Definitely.
doesn't get to be like, you know, it's like, what is it? Sun all the time leads to deserts or something like that. You know, like if
Oh,
it's
okay,
sunshine all
yeah.
the time, it's deserts. But no, dude, like I got clean in 2020, right? Because I remember, like, dude, like dude, when I was out there, every accomplishment, every failure, everything that had happened to me, everything that I had accomplished, everything that I had failed at, that was like I somehow in my twisted, sick way of thinking, those were all like I weaponized all of them, either to feel sorry for myself, to rationalize to myself why I was at where I was at, maybe, but all of it was just going on to, and what I think is like the addiction, like the limbic part of the brain, you know, that drink, fuck, fight, fuck, shelter. You know, I need drugs. That's all that matters, right? When that gets replaced with it, I was like, I don't know, bro. It's like it's its own fucking hell, man. But I remember, like, even at the core of it, like, no longer could I like do that shit anymore, dude. You know, like my excuses didn't make sense anymore. You know, she left how long ago? You know, mom and dad did what they did how long ago? Iraq was how long ago? You know, I'm just tired of like saying all this bullshit to myself, dude. And it wasn't the fucking truth. Bits and pieces of it, for sure, maybe. You know, but uh, yeah, dude. So you know, I went and got clean. I ended up being like stay clean for a few years or whatever. But you know, I got clean or whatever. And then it's like I remember, like, dude, I couldn't wear like short sleeve shirts for a few months, man. That's how bad I was hurting. But I remember, dude, like very soon in there, I think I detoxed for a few weeks, man. I was fucking hurting bad. But I met like my like best friend on the planet today. I met him in there, and then but you know, like you slowly start like you remove the drink or the drug, you know, which is, you know, you have to, but then it's like you start feeling better. You start being able to make eye contact with people, you know, you start being able to tell bit of your story, how to cry a fuck ton, you know, how to like let people in, which is like in my story, dude, that connection piece of it is probably like the biggest piece for me, you know. I was just fucking alone for fucking like deathly alone for at least a year or two or whatever. But I remember, dude, you know, like on Facebook where if it's like your birthday, like it tells everybody on Facebook it's your birthday. I didn't even get like a happy birthday for a couple of years, bro. That's how fucking, you know, that's just how fucking like checked out I was, you know. But um, I remember, dude, I got clean and it's like life got good, bro. Like I get the girlfriend, I get the dog, I go back to school, I get my license back, I start doing all these things again. You know, hey baby, start doing all these things again, and then I would like had a sponsor. I'm sponsoring people. I'm active. I'm being a good dude. All these things, right? But I would still have these like times, I call them like my like the shower thoughts, right? Where I would just, be in there and like, dude, you're the biggest fucking piece of shit ever. Like, what's the point? Comes into the equation again. Like, look at you, like you have a girlfriend and a dog and all this shit. Like, what makes you think like you even deserve that shit because of everything back there? And that was at like 2.5 years clean, bro, doing everything I was supposed to do, you know? And then it was a lot, dude. And like, you know,
That's how that cycle perpetuates of like, hey, shit's stable. And now I'm telling myself, like, I don't deserve this.
yeah, fuck. Yeah, like nail on the head with that one, dude. But yeah, and then I remember I have friends that I got like clean with because I like relapsed, like after that, like a few times. But they were just like, Billy, just do A, B, and C. Just do A, B, and C. And then like my head would say, well, motherfucker, you haven't been through what I've been through. You know what I mean? But when I'm
Mm,
doing that, it's dangerous because I'm like wedging separation in there. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't been through what I've been through. You don't fucking understand. That might be true. But if they didn't, it's really important for me to find somebody that does or who's willing to. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if
Sure.
I'm, yeah, yeah. So, but then it sucked too. Like just had a few years. I was like Mr. AA and whatever, and then like I fucked off. And but dude, it's like if I stop, like what I had realized like through that whatever is like you were saying, dude, like the drink and the drug, those were like the medicine. You know what I mean? Like they were the solution to my problems. And then I get clean and sober, and then like recovery became like my solution, the spiritual solution to all the fucking pain that existed within from well before drinking or drugging ever entered the equation. And then I kind of unplugged from a program because life got lifey or whatever the fuck. I got busy, and I got all the things back, and maybe like I forgot the pain a little bit, because the ass kicking was enough to keep me sober for a while. But I kind of unplugged from my recovery program, and I just did school and then all this stuff. And then when family stuff happened or life inevitably happens, I started to wake up to the like the ugh, I started to wake up angsty again, or just my thoughts wouldn't stop again, and here I was with a few years sober, sponsoring people. I'm like, dude, I shouldn't be feeling this, you know, I shouldn't.
Shit
Yeah,
again.
there's a shit again, right? And I would keep my mouth shut and just suffer in silence because I didn't think I was supposed to be feeling that way. Like, dude, I've already.
Especially, yeah.
I'm
Now
sorry,
you're a role model. Like you've helped other people get clean. I can't be wanting this
dude.
again.
Right, right. These little hats that we wear, and again, there's our identity thing, right? So I was attaching on to this fucking thing, and it served me, dude. And it's like it can be both things. I could still be a healer who needs healing. I could still be, and it's the thing that I thought, like, dude, I'm our, But then the thing, that's where it comes to. I'd be disillusioned to think that the scales of balance are just righted because I stopped drinking and drugging, dude. Like, there's work to be done. Get rid of the drinking and drugs. Fine. Let's touch some of the trauma. Fine. Let's, there's always layers in this shit. And internal belief systems are a big one. Like I deserve to be on this call with you. I deserve to have my story listened to. I deserve to be doing the same to other people out there. I deserve a girlfriend, a dog. I deserve to look into the future with hope. I deserve to form a new relationship with my past, because I love myself
Mhm.
enough today. I'm showing up for myself. I'm human, man, and I'm allowed to hurt, and I'm allowed to fucking struggle with my family stuff, and I'm allowed to talk about it with people, but those are things that I don't know why I at the time where I didn't think that I could or whatever, but it's probably the ego, I'm sure, but uh and it's like in my life, it's like a balancing act, right? Like you're good over here. Oh fuck, now you got to do work over here. Now you got to do work over here. And now you got to do work over here, but it's
Yeah, man, it actually doesn't end. Like what a fucking scam. Like you gotta keep doing shit. I've thought a lot about that. Just it's inherent in being alive. It requires maintenance, requires work. It'd almost be like you eat breakfast and then you get upset when you get hungry for lunch. It's like, hey, that's exactly how this works. Like, no, I thought I ate a meal today. I thought I was done with that. Like, nah, dude,
yeah.
it doesn't end.
Dude, that's a good one. You know what though? I think like it's like now that I'm able to catch my breath and breathe, and I know when the next bill's gonna come. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's funny because in recovery I've heard like, dude, I trip over little shit, right? But it's like I'll pole vault over rat shit. You know what I mean? But it's like, but then like ideally, like the work we do, and again, like life's gonna fucking happen, right? And I'm allowed to fucking like have hiccups and stumble and cuss when I like hit my toe. You know what I mean? But ideally, I don't stay in it too fucking long. Like that's the thing I'm
Hmm.
learning, right? Is like we all have shit, even the dude who doesn't look like he does. You know what I mean? And that's none of my fucking business anyway. Like if they're not my people, that's why they're not my fucking people. Again, God has put fucking awesome people such as yourself and the people in my recovery circle. They're my fucking people, right? But it's like when it does come up or like these things do happen, ideally, like what I've noticed, like recovery and like the spiritual life that comes with it, right? It's like that's foundational to me, right? So then when it does come with the bill thing or the school thing or the family thing, like currently I'm going through a thing with like my kid brother where he's like struggling with addiction. But in the past, dude, even when I had a few years sober, that was enough to like take me out or at least add, where I'm stressing about this and then I'm stressing about school and then I was just stress. Oh, I know it'll work, like, but it's like, no, but
Again, like turn the volume down on everything.
exactly. But it's like,
Yeah.
dude, I put a
Yeah.
lot of fucking work even to be able like to start like the program with you, man. Like starting my work with you, like I came at like the perfect time, but bro, like plant medicine wasn't the first fucking door that I knocked on, bro. Fuck. And I was kind of like had a conception about it before, like being sober. We're not supposed to do that. And I've done
That's
a
right.
lot of work on that and like sat with myself and like other people that I respect a lot. So, but it just take me immense amount of work to even fucking be able to have like this conversation with you. And I like, um, but yeah.
Well, that's actually kind of where I wanted to press pause on the story for now. Because my plan here has always been for this to be a two-parter or three-parter, perhaps even. So I kind of wanted to cover like what led us up to now. And I know we haven't even touched your macrodose journey, that ceremony that you went on. But maybe we can save that for round two. We can kind of talk about what that recovery process was like, how the plant medicine fit into the picture, and we can actually work through this program a little bit more before I ask you to actually talk about the program itself in that way. But what I do still want to hear about now is like what is different now? Because when you said like you started getting sober and people would tell you what to do, they'd be like, do this, do that. And there'd be that part of you that's like, well, fuck you, man. Like you don't know what I've been through, right? Our program starts with me being like, hey, bro, do this, do that, right? So why did that stick now? Or is there still part of you that's like, fuck you, David, you're not a veteran. You're
Yeah.
never a drug addict. Like you don't know about this.
No, it's like maybe that like example that I gave like wasn't no actually no, it's important. It's worth like like maybe I don't know, bro. It's like, dude, it's not just drinking and shit. And when I don't know, like when I fell, I relapsed or whatever. It was fucked, dude. I was like, my ass was on fire before I picked up the drink. And I think when you've experienced like trauma or like periods of your life, and there's like a lot of the people who come to plant medicine are the people who fucking been through hell a couple times already. You know what I mean? And it's like I've tried everything already. You know what I mean? I've done therapy for a better part of a decade. Even when I was doing well, I continue to. I'm a big advocate for it. Even now, huge advocate for it. But and I do the AA and I do all this stuff, and I was still some of the time, dude. If you have some fucking big traumas or whatever, like the military thing adds its own thing. The mommy daddy thing adds its own thing. And like there's people that have been through worse that are healthier than I am, right? So it's like not to negate any of what I'm going through. I know there is hope with it for sure, but like it's unfortunate, dude. Some of the very best that I could do at the time, just keep it all in until I reach for a chemical solution, right? So when I would, like depending on who that came from at the time too, and then it's like I want to say like, dude, fuck you, bro. And I like know the person who said it too, but it's like, dude, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like if like my ass is, you know what I mean? It's like, but I've heard kind of the same, and I'm sure, dude, they were just doing the best that they could too. You know what I mean? But it's like, but from like I've kind of heard I don't know, because like those who are hurting the fucking most oftentimes need the most grace and understanding, right? And it's like, like the people don't have to go through exactly what I've been through to fucking offer some hope and some love and some understanding and some grace and shit. But it's like, yeah, bro, I'm gonna, and it was also too, it's like, let's say, like the car's like out of gas on the side of the freeway, you know what I mean? And you're already stressed the fuck out because you got to go pick up your kids and it's fucking rush hour. And then the fucking guy pulls over and he's like, did you try pull, like, why didn't you put gas in it? It's kind of almost something like that. It's like, dude, I don't know. And that's, again, dude, I think like for me to even fucking be here with you guys, dude, it's like I've exhausted all the other efforts and I continue to use them still in my life today. But it's like, I didn't want to fucking, I don't know, bro. It's like, I was like, the biggest thing, sorry, like plant medicine wasn't the fucking first door I knocked on, brother. You know what I mean? And I try to do it every other fucking way. You know what I mean? But, recovery is a big part of my life. Working with people is a really big part of my fucking life, right? But, plant medicine, when I had first experienced like the heroic dose or like the macro dose, after that, I remember like this, like one of the first times I was consciously aware of it happening when it was happening. I'm sure it was already happening, but like to not even that far removed from like my like first experience with it was like that shame. I'm talking about that deep, immense, like uh like you put hands on your woman, your parents are fucking tweakers, or you're a piece of shit, or whatever. You know what I mean? But it's fucking loud, and I have worn it for fucking ever, right? But I remember it came, and when I stopped, and I was like, we're not doing that right now. You know what I mean? So it's like, dude, like legitimately having the ability to say no. Like, we're not doing that right now. And I had heard you can do that in therapy and this and that. I'm like, dude, I'm not, like, I can maybe like talk about it after I'm already feeling it, but to have the ability to say, like, we're not doing that right now. And maybe like sit with it for a second and say, okay, now it's your time to leave. Like, dude, that was like, fuck. Like, to me, like the biggest, I'm
And
sorry.
and I'm sure that was it was not in a way of pretending that didn't happen or like pushing those thoughts away, but just like, hey, we're not going down this negative thought spiral right now. Like I'm not gonna, I don't know, put that on myself or I'm not gonna identify myself
Absolutely.
that way. It's not a let's pretend that didn't happen, but it's a hey, I'm not gonna add more shit on top of my own head
Big
right
time.
now. And as you said, like you heard that's possible in therapy. This is to me, this is one of the biggest things that plant medicine does. You can hear all this shit and be like, wow, sure would be nice to be able to do
Sure would be
that.
nice.
Like, sure would be nice. And then the plant medicine's like, oh, here you go. This is what it's like. And you're like, oh, this is nice. That's what they were talking about. But the real work begins once like the mushrooms show you like, hey, this is possible, this is what they're talking about, this is what that's like. Now figure out how to do that on a daily basis, right? And I think that's where something like microdosing can really come in, where it helps you to hold on to that on the regular instead of just needing 5 grams of mushrooms every day, because then that's not too different than needing a little bit of heroin to get through
Yeah,
the
I get
day,
you, brother. Yeah, yeah.
dude. As we as we kind of like, because where I want to go from here is hearing like what actually happened in recovery, that pulled you out of that. Hear some more about that journey and then hear about how the mushrooms fit into the picture. We'll talk about the microdosing fitting in and all the lessons learned from our program. So that's kind of where I want to go. But as we kind of finish reflecting on the past, everything leading up to this, is there anything else you want to add? Any other stories to pull out? Maybe any other thoughts, reflections, lessons learned from all the shit that you've been through? Or do you feel like we've kind of covered things and given them their due?
Yeah, yeah, dude. I don't think there's any more shit you can add to that pile. But no, no, I'm kidding. No, no, no. It's all good, brother. Yeah, it's usually like I don't spend too much time on the like like in recovery. Like our big thing is like try not to go into too much of the war stories. And I just think it it
Mm-hmm.
is important though, right? Like my past is my past, but like the attachment that I have to it is definitely changed. And I guess it would have been nicer to deliver some of the information more like cut and dry. But I'm human though, so it is.
No, man, and that's why I do this. on the podcast in this very specific way. And I kind of jokingly said before, even like, hey, let's linger in the darkness a little bit longer. And I do that on purpose because there is a lot of value in somebody hearing that. Where this is why I do it, man. So that someone else listens to it and they're like, wow, that was fucked up what Billy went through, but he's doing real good now. Like, how did that work? And ideally, that gives them just a little bit of inspiration. And, I literally on my podcast earlier today with Jake, his kind of parting words were like, I want people to know that healing is possible. And again, that's why I wanted to pull that out so someone could hear the fucking depths that you went to. And not that they should be comparing, but then to hear that and be like, well, fucking Billy did it. I can do it too, man.
Absolutely, brother. Yeah, yeah.
So I appreciate you taking that little trip down memory lane with me. Because, yeah, it's not pleasant stuff to think about or talk about. And as you said, like the point's not to share the war stories and just make, like dramatic stories that people enjoy watching like a fucking train wreck, but rather to pull out yeah, the inspiration or the hope that should be there. So I appreciate you doing that with
Absolutely,
me,
brother.
man. Appreciate you, Billy.
Love you,
man.
brother. Big time, man.
All right, folks. That's it for this episode, this part 1 episode with my friend Billy. Quite a life he's had, quite a journey he has been on. And as I said in the beginning, grateful to be a part of it. Grateful to him to come on here and be so open and honest and vulnerable with everything that he shared. And keep an eye peeled for our round 2 or part 2 episode with him once he finishes our microdosing program. As always, if you are interested to learn a little bit more about microdosing, shoot us a message. We've also got some things in the works. We're cooking up a couple of options for all of you active duty folks and law enforcement officers out there who cannot yet participate in the plant medicine world. We're not leaving you guys behind either. So if you want to get in touch, shoot us a message on Instagram at becoming.om. That's the best spot. And stay tuned for more of these episodes. Thank you very much for listening. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your attention. Peace out. Hare Krishna.